Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Bill. In today's video, we are going to recap what happened in the Wednesday online game. We started playing my Pathfinder game again. So the party consists of the previous players and we added a new player to it. So we spent part of the game, probably the first half hour or so, answering questions and getting the party situated. Maybe up to an hour because I had a few things I was doing to each party member to add to the strong start that I was trying to incorporate. The strong start that I used was that the party is exiting a ruined tomb and they are attacked by an enemy. So I went through and I was looking at this and going around. I gave all the players a little bit of damage starting off. They all had a D4 damage that they took. They're all first level, so that's a bit much damage, but also not necessarily if they were fighter classes or if they had a healer amongst them. But they did not, so it ended up being pretty good. The necromancer in the party had acquired a undead in the dungeon that they are exiting. So he is ordering around what's that skeleton called? It's a skeleton that's on fire. It does fire damage in addition to just being a skeleton. There's a specific name for it, but it's just a template you throw on regular skeletons. So that's what he has under his control at the time they exit. They've all acquired some magical items from this dungeon, some silver, and a few other odds and ends. The magical items, they don't know what, other than the bag of holding, they really don't know what they do yet. So they're going to get those identified probably when they go back to town. So as they emerge, they are surrounded by a bunch of kobolds, handful of lizardmen. I think the lizardmen totaled 4 and the kobolds totaled like 12. And then a single cultist in robes. Well, the cultist serves Sobek, but the party didn't know that until they investigate the cultist later, mostly because the very first round of combat, the new player, the archer, shoots and criticals the cultist that's up there and drops him with enough damage. Yes, this is a cultist. Yes, it's the leader of this group, but he did not have a lot of hit points. He was going to be, in my mind, and the players didn't know this, but in my mind, he was going to be the spellcasting support to what was going on. So they dropped him immediately. So if the lizard man weren't looking at this as an opportunity to acquire food because the party members are injured, then they probably would have retreated right away. The kobolds wanted to retreat, but the lizard men more or less intimidated them into staying and fighting. So the fight breaks out. The party goes first. The skeleton moves up to attack a kobold, and he takes one out. Trying to remember everything that happened. The whole game more or less consisted of this one combat, surprisingly. I figured it would have been faster, but the party's spellcasting worked against them more than it did to help them. The drow in the party, which I think he's a rogue, dropped a darkness spell, and he cast it on a pebble that he was chucking at the enemy. And when he did that, when he went to throw it, he rolled a 1, so he spiked it straight into the ground. So instead, they're covered in darkness. The druid then casts Entangle, centered on her. The only reason is she can't see a plant. So she had a plant on her, so she pulls it out, casts it using that. So for a 40-foot radius, Entangle starts grabbing everything. There was one lizardman at the edge of the radius, but everyone else was pretty much in it. The downside is, so was the burning skeleton. So the entangle caught fire, but not immediately. It was the next turn that everyone started taking fire damage. The party's trying to figure out what to do with the darkness. They're trying to counter the darkness with their own magic. So the turn ends. The next turn comes up, and there's always that optional rule that we've always used for 3rd edition. If you can cast the spell, you can drop the spell. And it's not you can drop somebody else's spell, you can drop your own spell. So the drow that casts darkness ends the darkness. The druid that casts entangle ends the entangle after everyone's taken fire damage. And they only took like a d6 fire damage. That said, that I believe that dropped 2 party members. That definitely took out all the kobolds. It injured... did it injure? Either between that and an attack, it took out one of the lizardmen. The other 3 lizardmen tried to escape. The one that was at the furthest end of the entangle got out of the entangle before it was ended, and then he makes a break for it. He's the one that's furthest away. He does get away. The 2 others, one gets attacked and dropped, and the other one gets shot at, but he gets away. And then after that, the party's like, well, we're tending to our wounds. We've lost pretty much 2/3 of our hit points in this one encounter. And I'm like, yep, and that's about what's happened. So they try to help the people that are injured. They then head back to town to go to the benefactor that sent them on this mission. Once back to town, they decide to wait a couple of days before going to the benefactor. Now, what's great is how I describe the benefactor. Hold on, I need to grab those notes. Okay. The benefactor, he's a half-orc, and he's old. He's kind of a mix of Doc Brown and Ace Ventura. If you wanted a different view of him, think of the old man from that was in charge of Bossing Say. So he's that crazy old guy. And once they give him the item, he will pay them. He was in search of all 3 of these items, and this is the last one he needs. The artifact item that the party has retrieved doesn't have like a lot of properties to it that they can identify, but it is very strong transmutation magic. And by very strong, I mean higher than like a 2nd level spell. But when used with the 3 other items, it could possibly do one of 3 different things. One is control the level of the sea. Another is could be used by the cultists. This is why the cultists want it, to open up a portal, bring demons to the plane. And then another option, I don't remember what I told them. So players, if you all remember, put it in the comments below. And now they're thinking they can possibly counterfeit this or get it counterfeited. And when they meet with him, turn in the counterfeit. I gave them the price range that a counterfeit could be made at. So they get to figure out what price point they're going to make it at. If they go that route. They still need to talk with one of the players who had to hop off about 20 minutes early. But that's where the game ended. The players got 200 XP each for their characters that participated. And that was the adventure so far. I used probably like 2 lines worth of text and a handful of monsters for this one. I'm going to go over because I used Return of the Lazy Dutch Master to design this. And I designed it in like 10 minutes in the morning. So I'm going to go over this, figure out where they're at, what they're going to do, expand on some potential scenes, expand on some new secrets and clues, and some new fantastic locations based on where they're choosing to go. So hopefully they'll get to experience this adventure for at least 4 more weeks till they get to the conclusion of why these artifacts were needed and what all they could do about it. So, until we all meet again, guys.